Welcome back to the deep dive. Okay, we're jumping straight into something quite fundamental today. A real paradox.
Right.
It's about why some people look at a situation, maybe a really uncertain one, and see this huge opportunity while, everyone else just sees danger, pure danger.
Yeah, it's fascinating, isn't it? Why do some people step into that risk zone while others just stay on the sidelines their whole lives?
Watching.
Exactly, waiting for things to feel safe, which, let's be honest, rarely happens. So that's what we're exploring today. The difference between just being reckless, impulsive,
Yeah.
and what the sources call conscious risk-taking. The kind of calculated move that, well, history often labels as wise. And there's a core idea we pulled from the material for this deep dive. No one can grow up in the comfort zone. Simple, but powerful. It really shifts the perspective. It suggests wisdom isn't about, building walls against danger.
No, not at all. It's about how you engage with it, how you manage it consciously. The sources frame difficulty, even danger, as almost necessary. Fuel for real growth. Okay, let's unpack that right away. Because the sources are really clear that risk, it only really pays off. It only have value when the person taking it is, well, they use the word worthy.
Worthy, yeah, sunk dang. And that word can sound a bit loaded, maybe?
Yeah, a bit intimidating.
Yeah.
How do you measure that? How do I know if I'm worthy enough to take a risk without sounding arrogant or, getting it wrong?
That's the crucial distinction. It's not about moral worth or, reputation. The sources define it much more practically. It's about quantifiable readiness, preparation,
Yeah.
competence.
So it's a threshold based on what you've actually done to prepare.
Exactly. So if someone lacks that competence, if they haven't done the homework, haven't really understood the variables, and they jump into something high stakes, well, that's just recklessness. The sources call it lilen. It's basically a gamble built on shaky foundations.
Okay, so recklessness is like action without the right capability to back it up, or maybe trying to operate way beyond your current level of preparation.
Precisely. But here's the flip side. When someone has done the work, they have the relevant knowledge, the inner capacity, the preparation, then taking that same risk, it completely transforms.
How so?
It stops being a wild gamble. It becomes something else, an act that can actually unlock potential, unlock their path forward. The source calls this kaimuvan, opening your destiny, in a way.
That's a really powerful shift in thinking. It puts the emphasis squarely on internal readiness, not just external luck.
Right.
But here's a potential issue I see. If we emphasize needing to be fully worthy or prepared, couldn't that just lead to analysis paralysis, people thinking, well, I'm not ready yet, I need to prepare more, and they never actually do anything?
That's a really important question, and the sources address it. Preparation doesn't mean having, perfect information. That's impossible.
Okay.
It means having the critical knowledge for the very next step. And just as importantly, having the conviction that you can handle setbacks, learn from failure, because failure is almost guaranteed at some point.
So it's not about knowing everything, but knowing enough for now and being resilient enough for what comes next.
Yes. The truly prepared person, the worthy one, they've kind of stress tested themselves internally first. They know what they can sustain.
I see. It's preparedness in terms of resilience, not just data points. Okay, so to make this content, the sources offered some really compelling historical examples.
Yeah, looking back helps clarify this. Let's talk about Lloyd first. He was a Jewish art merchant. This is around 1938, Austria. Things were, well, terrifying.
Politically unstable, economically chaotic.
Exactly. Hyperinflation fears, massive uncertainty. The logical thing, what most people were doing if they were fleeing, was liquidating everything. Get cash, maybe gold, something portable, and run.
Makes sense. Survival mode. Make
Yeah.
it liquid.
But Lloyd, he saw things differently. He understood value beyond the immediate panic. He took his entire fortune, everything he had left, and instead of cash, he invested it all in fine art.
Wow. That seems incredibly counterintuitive in that climate.
It does. He moved his collection, his capital, everything, to London. He was betting against the short-term fear, betting on the enduring value of culture, of art, which often outlasts regimes and currencies.
So his preparation wasn't just financial, it was historical, understanding patterns, and obviously deep knowledge of the art market itself.
Absolutely. He knew his specific field, and he understood the broader context of political collapse that tangible assets like art often survive when paper wealth gets wiped out. To outsiders, it looked like madness.
But it was calculated.
Deeply calculated. And the result, just 10 years later, He hadn't just preserved his wealth, he'd built a world-leading fine art empire from that single, incredibly risky-looking decision. His preparation made him worthy of that risk.
Incredible. Okay, let's contrast that, or maybe compare it with J.P. Morgan, the railway story. What was the situation there?
Right, Morgan. Late 19th century America. The railway system was vast, but it was a total mess. Fragmented ownership, different gauges, poor maintenance, unreliable schedules.
A logistical nightmare, basically.
Completely. The public, even many investors, saw it as a black hole for money, a liability. So when Morgan started buying up huge chunks of these old, failing railway lines, consolidating them, people thought he was genuinely crazy. Financial madness, they called it.
Why would he buy assets everyone else was desperate to get rid of? It seems like taking on enormous problems.
Because Morgan saw the problem wasn't the idea of railways or the need for them. The problem was management, structure, finance. His preparation was different from Lloyd's. It was about systems, consolidation, capital, regulation.
Ah, okay. He saw a path to making the whole system work efficiently.
Exactly. He knew what changes were needed, the investment required, and crucially, he understood the immense strategic value a unified, functional railway system would have for a rapidly industrializing country. He saw an infrastructure crisis not as a failure, but as a massive consolidation opportunity.
So again, what looked like a crazy gamble on the surface buying up failing companies was actually based on deep preparation and a strategic vision others lacked.
Yes. In both cases, Lloyd with art, Morgan with railways, the actions seemed radical, but they weren't blind bets. They knew what they knew what they didn't know, and they understood the variables they could potentially control.
It comes back to that idea you mentioned earlier from the sources, this Jewish concept of investment as risk management. Kwan Li Hemungai.
That's it. Not running from danger, but learning to.
Well, you said earlier, dialogue with it.
Yeah, I like that phrase, dialoguing with danger. It implies an active engagement, not just passive fear.
Because psychologically, danger serves a purpose. According to this philosophy, it's a test of your inner capacity, your preparedness. Which brings us to the internal side of this, the growth threshold.
Okay, tell me more about that. We hear step outside your comfort zone all the time, but what does that actually mean mentally, according to these sources, when someone takes a conscious risk? Well, the material suggests that when you deliberately push yourself right up to the edge of your biggest fear, maybe it's public failure, losing money, having a difficult conversation, whatever triggers that deep recoil. And you act anyway. Something shifts in the brain. It's like a cognitive restructuring happens. A new pathway opens up, a part of your thinking that was maybe dormant or inaccessible before.
So fear is a natural protective instinct, but consciously choosing to act, despite the fear, actually unlocks new mental capacity. That seems to be the idea. Growth doesn't happen when you're comfortable. It happens right at that boundary, when you push past what you thought was your limit. The brain kind of recalibrates. Okay, we survived that stress. We need to adapt to handle this better next time. And this is crucial. This is why the philosophy insists this isn't about being reckless. It's not about ignoring fear.
No.
It's about stepping into it consciously, deliberately, with preparation, because that act of confronting it is how you overcome it and expand your capabilities for the future.
Which loops right back to why preparation is so vital. You need that foundation. The sources say true wisdom isn't just in the daring act itself. Anyone can leap off a cliff.
Right.
Wisdom is in knowing clearly what is worth the risk, what trade-off actually makes sense based on your preparation and values.
Okay, so let's say someone listening has done that work. They've prepared, they've assessed, they believe the risk is worthy. What's the actual strategy then? What do the whys do next? It's described as a two-part strategy, and they have to work together. First, meticulous preparation. Take the time needed. Gather the info, test the ideas, line up resources, slow and steady. Okay, prepare thoroughly. And second,
Act fast. Once the decision is made based on that preparation, you move. No hesitation, no second-guessing, undermining the action.
preparation and speed, strategy, and courage.
Exactly. The source uses the phrase muva dong kung song han, strategy and courage marching side by side. The prep gives you the what and why. The conviction gives you the speed to seize the when.
I like that. Preparation slows you down beforehand to make sure you're ready, but then conviction speeds you up during the execution.
Precisely. It prevents impulsive action, but enables decisive action when the moment is right.
It reminds me of that metaphor used in the sources. The door of life does not open automatically.
Yeah, that's a good one.
You can stand there waiting for perfect conditions, waiting for someone to invite you in, but the opportunity, the door, stays shut unless you take the initiative. the prepared, calculated initiative.
And that worthiness we talked about, it doesn't come from outside, not from luck, not from reputation, not from what other people think.
Where does it come from then? Solely from that combination. The thorough preparation, the courage to act when it's time, and a genuine conviction in your own value, your own capacity to handle whatever comes next, success or failure. So the ultimate point isn't proving something to the world. It's about knowing internally that you're equipped to handle the situation. That's why the wise person isn't trying to eliminate risk entirely.
No, they learn to walk alongside it with what the source calls TAM and a peaceful mind, calm assurance.
How do they achieve that?
By neutralizing the fear of the risk, not by removing the actual danger, which is often impossible, but by accepting it as a known challenge they've prepared for. Danger becomes just feedback, a teacher.
Which leads us, I think, to the most practical takeaway for everyone listening. Don't wait for perfect conditions. They never arrive.
Right. The sources are really clear. The act of starting, assuming you've done reasonable preparation, is the condition needed. You create readiness by beginning. You decide you're ready with yourself. That internal decision, backed by strategy, that's the edge.
So as we wrap up this deep dive on conscious risk, let's leave you with a final thought directly from this philosophy of worthiness.
Okay.
If readiness, if preparation and capacity are the real keys to unlocking opportunity, what's the one area of preparation, maybe a skill, maybe some knowledge, maybe a difficult conversation that you're postponing right now? What piece are you putting off that might be keeping you from seeing the path forward, the one others might be missing?
It's worth thinking about what steps do you need to take strategically to feel ready with yourself so that when life does present that challenging door, that opportunity,
Yeah,
you're not just worthy, but you're ready and fast enough to actually walk through it.
something to consider. We'll catch you on the next deep dive.